Hello, everybody, and welcome to the TARDIS Zone. And this is the TARDIS Zone Talks. Hope you're all doing well indeed. So, I just said I'd come on for about 40 minutes or so before I have to bring Ted out, and he takes his our meds. So I said, why not do a little stream on the rumors. Well, it's not a rumor really. It's stuff that was said when David Tennant and Billy Piper were together recently in relation to a Doctor Who movie, and fans have been asked if they would like to see uh, a Doctor Who movie. Now, of course, the Doctor Who movie that they're suggesting is with Billy Piper and David Tennant. But to be quite honest with you, I don't want to see David Tennant anywhere near Doctor Who again. He's an absolute creature. So, with that said, if you were to get a Doctor Who movie, which former Doctor would you like to see play or replay the role for the movie? Or would you hire a completely different actor to play the Doctor for a movie version of the Doctor? And also, who would you cast as your companion? Would it be one of the old companions? Or again, would it be an actress that has not played any part in Doctor Who and recast an actress as the companion? For me, personally, if you were going to do a movie, Doctor Who movie, I wouldn't mind seeing Billy Piper in a movie with Christopher Eccleston. Now, if that didn't happen, I would like to see, this will surprise a few people, but for me, I would like to see Peter Capaldi and Pearl Mackie be given a movie, considering the way, in my opinion, Pearl Mackie was treated. I think she deserved better, to be quite honest with you. And I did like the character of Bill Potts. That's just me personally. I know there's some people who didn't like the Peter Capaldi era, but I did. And I would love to see a movie, Doctor Who movie with those two. That's who I would choose. If I couldn't get the Billy Piper, Christopher Eccleston movie, then I would go with Peter Capaldi and Pearl Mackie for me. Super John says Eccleston as an elderly doctor who has built its TARDIS just like the Cushing movies. Yeah, and if you haven't seen the Peter Cushing movies, you should check them out. They're actually pretty good. And I love the music in them as well. The soundtrack in them. At first, it annoyed me, when I first started watching them, but I've watched them so many times now that I actually like the music. Is one of the best parts of these movies. So yeah, if you haven't checked them out, check them out. But yeah, back to this whole movie rumor. Could we get a movie instead of a Christmas special? Could we get a movie instead of a full season of Doctor Who? Look, for me, if they did a movie, right, to me, it would signal that they have no confidence in the show. And to be quite honest with you, why would you be doing a movie? And the thing about it is, if this is something that BBC is thinking about because they might have to go it alone, it may be the only way that they can actually move forward. And maybe twice a year we get a Doctor Who movie or something. That could be one thing that they could do. Whether they do it or not now is another thing. This is just me speculating. This is not me saying that this is happening. I'm just giving my opinion. Dalek movie remake, big budget. You could do that. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing a movie, with a more adult tone with the Daleks. I think it would be absolutely scary as hell, to be quite honest with you. But they wouldn't do that. BBC are not going to, as I said earlier on, when I came on. It's whether BBC are willing to take a risk. And I don't think they will take a risk. I think they'll play it safe again, which is a big mistake. They need to take a risk now. It's all or nothing, basically, for them. For them, it's all or nothing, right? Because how many failures can BBC take? To be quite honest, this time they had Disney Plus and the 100 million to cover them. But how many failures with Doctor Who does BBC actually need before someone cops on? Right? It needs to go back to basics. It needs new blood. As far as I'm concerned, nobody who has worked on the show during the New Who era should be working on the show ever again. That's how strongly I feel about it. Right? We need science fiction writers brought in. And listen, if you're a science fiction writer, you will know of Doctor Who. There's no way you would not know of Doctor Who. So they would have a general knowledge of what the show is about. Right? But they need to go back to basics. Back to the old grandfather doctor again would work right now. I actually have to agree with you on that one. I don't think it's time for a young doctor. And I'd even go as far as to say, the actor for me would have to be a well-known older actor to take the role, in all fairness, for it to succeed. I'm going to say it again, Hugh Grant is available or would be available for Doctor Who. Do you want to win people back? I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but as an actor, he has the acting chops, he has the ability, he has the CV behind him, and if I'd bring him in, to be quite honest with you. I think he'd do a good job. Or you could go even older again if you wanted to, like John suggests. But I think Hugh Grant would be perfect. And remember, his agent never told him. And he tells that story. So it's obviously, something that he has thought about. You know what I mean? Sorry if I sound a little bit different. I don't have my earphones in, because if I put my earphones in, I'll talk too loud and I'll wake Cheryl up. So I'm talking, she's on the computer speaker. So might sound a little bit shit, but you will still be able to hear what I'm saying. We got Peter Davison in the chat and Robert Payne, who are joining me. A new Doctor Who movie, maybe if written well and seriously with a serious actor. Well, that's what I'm asking, right? So Billy Piper and David Tennant were at a convention, and I think the presenter or something, but it came up about a Doctor Who movie. And of course the media jumped on that, and they asked fans, would they like a movie, Doctor Who movie with Rose Tyler and David Tennant's Doctor? And I said no, absolutely not. Not with David Tennant. I don't want that lanky streak of misery anywhere near Doctor Who ever again. Right? As far as I'm concerned, he's an evil man. Right? People could call me over dramatic or whatever. He is pure evil. Him and his missus are evil people. Right? That's my opinion on it, and I don't care if you agree or disagree. Right? That's my opinion. They're evil. So I don't want him anywhere near Doctor Who. I wouldn't mind seeing Billy Piper back. We all have a soft spot for Billy Piper. Do you know what I mean? So I think fans would jump on Billy Piper coming back on board, no problem. But not with David Tennant. That's why I was saying at the very start of the stream that if they were able to convince Christopher Eccleston, I would take that. Right? I'd love those two to be given the opportunity, especially Christopher Eccleston after the way he was treated. And then I said, well, if they can't get Chris to do it with Billy, well, then I would rather Peter Capaldi and Pearl Mackie, because they only got one season together. They worked well together. And it's a bit like what John wanted, even though it's professor-student kind of relationship. It's like a grandfather and granddaughter kind of thing. You know what I mean? It reflects that. So for me, that would work with Peter Capaldi. And if Darren Mackie was willing to come back, that'd be absolutely fantastic. But of course, don't get me wrong, I'd love to see Christopher Eccleston back on the big screen as the Doctor again. And he's on, and he said if he ever did it again, he'd only be coming back with Billie Piper anyway. So you know, he holds Billie Piper to high regard. She holds him to a high regard, and they obviously care about each other as well. And he cares so much that he says he wouldn't do he wouldn't have another companion. She's his companion, and that's it. So if you can't get those, then no. But listen, we're only talking here. I'm not saying the Doctor Who movie is happening, right? Fans in this fandom, obviously, when there is no Doctor Who news to talk about, you know, they'll pick up Anton, especially those weirdo fans. They pick up on Anton, right? It doesn't mean that there will be a Doctor Who movie, but I am asking the question: if yous did like the idea of a Doctor Who movie, who would you get to play as a Doctor? Would it be an old actor off the show? Same with companion. Would it be an old actress on the show, or would you recast? And if you would recast, who would you recast as your Doctor, and who would you recast as your companion? For me personally, everybody talks about the Daleks and stuff, and the Dalek stories would be a good idea. But you know what? I for some weird reason, for me, I would rather see a Cyberman series, a Cyberman movie. You know, just for so I don't know what it is with the Cybermen. I know the Daleks are more terrifying, and you could do a lot with Daleks as well as you could do with Cybermen. But for some weird reason, I wouldn't mind an old Cyberman movie or a Cyberman spin-off. I wouldn't mind that. That'd be up my alley. But they've messed it up. RTD has messed it up. Peter says I was invited to meet Carol Ann Ford at a fan signing autographs event in her only Australian visit ever. Says Peter Davis, and that's good. For Peter, Jenna Coleman and Peter Capaldi for him. Missy and the Cybermen, says Peter Davis, and yeah, you could do Missy and the Cybermen. I don't think anybody would be opposed to Michelle Gomez coming back, but some will argue that, you know, the Missy thing started all the gender nonsense. But again, you know, Lee made the point, you know, if anybody was going to change gender, it would be the Master. He's the Master of the Sky, so it made sense. Just didn't make sense with the Doctor. The Doctor is a scientist that builds a time machine in a research facility could work. Yeah. I mean, you have to do something new with it now, don't you? I mean, they have done so much damage. You know, personally speaking, I would just ignore. You know, some shows have done that, or some movie franchises have just done it. They've just come out and said, look, we're ignoring what came before, and we're just starting off from this point, and we're moving on. And I think at this stage, that's what Doctor Who should actually do. It shouldn't try fix the damage that's being done to it, because you're never going to fix that damage, and you're never going to satisfy everybody. So you're better off just ignoring it and doing a Dallas, basically, and trying to figure it out and work it out, you know, and move forward with the show. They have a lot of explaining to do with how Missy is still alive. It would need to be set prior to Darkwater and all of that. Yeah, exactly. But it could still work because it's a movie. You know what I mean? So it could still work. Wrestling reviewer Daniel says nope. The Meddling Monk and McGann for a movie make it more dark and stuff. I do agree that we'd all love to see McGann, but it's not. Look, if for some weird reason, right, that with Paul McGann and Doctor Who, it's just a strange one because he's worked for BBC on Doctors and all of that other stuff. Like he's done other stuff for BBC, but for some weird reason, there's something with Doctor Who, and I don't get it. I don't know. Maybe because the movie was so it wasn't well received. To be quite honest, yeah, maybe there's the stigma behind the movie that holds him back a little bit. But we all seen when Moffat brought him back that he still had a lot to offer. And I don't get that. That baffles me, man, to be quite honest with you. You bring back David Tennant loads of times. You know, if you wanted to really do something to win fans over, well, then for the 60th, what you should have really done was you should have brought back McGann and you should have tried. I know RTD wouldn't have got Christopher Eccleston to come back, but he might have been able to convince Peter Capaldi because obviously it's not Chris Chibnall. But if you wanted to win fans back, that's what you should have bloody done. Right? But no, you brought back that lanky streak of misery. Super John says, it's what we work for a large audience that is important. They can leave the show aside until they come up with something to reset the show. Good point. Peter Davison says, I hope it's not like the Peter Cushing Dalek movies. It was forced in place as canon. No, those movies are not canon. They have Moffat tried to make them canon. I wouldn't mind seeing them canon. To be quite honest with you, I have a soft spot for those movies now, but I do agree with you. They shouldn't try force anything. But Moffat did try and make them canon or within the Doctor Who universe to give them the respect that I think they deserve. Ignore 2005 now as a whole, says Daniel. That's the extreme, yeah, of what some fans want, and I don't blame them. The movie had rights issues for a long time with the BBC and Fox. Yeah, that was the reason why Moffat couldn't ultimately make them canon, but he did actually try. There was a big push even by the fans at the time for that. Animated movie with classical actors' voices. I think people are animated out though, because the animation that they're using obviously is not great. But I suppose for a big budget movie, it would be completely different, and the animation would be different. But I don't know. Actually, that is a good little point to make. Would people prefer an animated Doctor Who movie, or do you want a proper live action movie? There's a question for you. Put them in the comment section there. Live action or animated? What would you be up for? For me, I'd like to see another live action movie. I think BBC are missing a trick with the old movies. Like BBC could do their own little BBC movies, an hour and a half each. Like, do you know what I mean? I don't know why they've never expanded on that, or even, you know, said, yeah, we could do this. You know, you could even, if they really wanted to use their heads, right? You've got a lot of stories on Big Finish that are actually decent that fans shout and scream about, right? If you were clever enough, because they're Big Finish, right, you could actually recast them, right, and bring people in to play the Doctors and make them TV movies and do some of the Big Finish audios as live action stories. But again, I don't know. I know that Big Finish is kind of like, is supposed to be kind of like isn't it a kind of separate entity? Like they have license, but they can only do certain things and stuff, whatever. But there's still plenty. Imagine if BBC then decided, like, well, we're going to start making like it'd help out Big Finish as well. Think about it. If you had a movie based off a Big Finish show, a Big Finish audio, one of the better ones that you all like, right? And they turned that into a live action movie, it would bring more people towards Big Finish as well and help out Big Finish at the same time, because Big Finish is struggling, and we all know that. And we know the reasons why it is struggling. Unfortunately, they decided that fans were the best people to start writing for the show or writing for Big Finish. And of course, now you're getting indoctrinated and propaganda shut down your throats. And then even when you do get, you know, a story with no agenda, the writing is so bad, you can't tolerate them because they're not bringing in people based off talent anymore. As I said earlier, and we keep saying this, they don't bring in people based off talent anymore, right? And that's where this whole industry, it's not just BBC, it's the whole industry has failed because, they have decided that it's better to hire based off different criteria than just basing it solely off talent. And that's all it should ever be. And until they go back to that way of doing things, you're going to keep having the shite that you're having. Public know the Doctor is a Time Lord. We've had other inventor with a time machine. Shows like Timeless. Kind of done to animate now, says Daniel. So Daniel disagrees with the animation. It would have to be a live action with Daleks or a Cyberman movie, says Super John. Live action would be best. All they need are costumes and locations to have an adventure in a different time. None of this would work with Disney. Well, Disney, look at, when Jane, I will be doing a full video on this because I do want to address it because, I know there are some people out there that are taking our comments up the wrong way and they're not looking at our comments the right way. So basically, when she comes out and says Doctor Who will continue with or without Disney, why would she have to say Doctor Who will continue with or without Disney if there is nothing in the rumors that that Disney have walked away, right? She wouldn't even have to have mentioned it. But the fact that she did mention it proves to me that there is something in these rumors about Disney walking away. So if Disney walk away, right, then if BBC can't find another distributor, Jane has made it clear that Doctor Who will continue with or without Disney. So which means BBC take it back, be a lower budget. Now, could they do a full season? I don't think so. Maybe this is where all of this nonsense about a Doctor Who movie has all of a sudden came to light. But I would say if you're going to do a Doctor Who movie, if you cast David Tennant, forget about it. And I mean that. Forget about it. Nobody's going to switch in to watch David Tennant now. Right? He got a big deal, didn't he, for a game show on, what was it, ITV or whatever. They gave him loads of money and the thing flopped. Right? Nobody wants to see David Tennant. Everybody thinks David Tennant's a twat right now. Right? So why would anybody want to watch him on screen? Right? So if you're making a Doctor Who movie, if it's not with Christopher Eccleston, Peter Capaldi, or you're not going to just recast for a movie, then forget about it. Right? Nobody wants David Tennant. And I don't think I'm speaking out of turn here. I think people in the comment section will agree with me. I don't think anybody wants David Tennant on Doctor Who. Right? He's had his time anyway. He's had more time than most people on the show. Right? You can't keep coming back to it either anyway, because that's ridiculous. Right? I'm sorry, but I've got David Tennant fatigue. Right? I don't want to see him anywhere near this show. Right? And anybody that has the opinions and the ideology that he has, I don't want him anywhere near Doctor Who. Right? Because Doctor Who is a family show and sacred. And people with his ideals and his wife's ideals have no business anywhere near Doctor Who again. And I'm not being harsh. It's the truth. Right? Super John says, the movie has got to grip people and hook people in. Mass merchandise, toys, etc. Exactly. Or camp or flouncy with emotional problems, doctors, thanks. I agree with that. I'm sick of emotional fucking doctors now at this fucking stage. Fuck's sake, Jodie Whittaker was the same, like, leave it out, right? We want their doctors more emotional, we fucking ask you. You know? They had to take a £1 million bond loan a few years back. Yeah, we covered that. But apparently, according to, everybody out there, that was normal practice and they did it all the time. So you mean to tell me that you're basically running a business that makes loss every single year and you still manage to stay afloat? That doesn't make any sense because you're continuously paying the bank back. Yeah, exactly. She did. When she came out with that tweet and asked how many women were writing for Doctor Who, I said it at the time. I'm gonna try get that tweet up. Look, she's gone after Big Finish. Big Finish is done, or something like that. I said, right, and look at it. I was right all along, and I ever said came true. Anyway, I can hold my head up high and say I was right all along. Right, everything I predicted happened. Right, people called me toxic, came after me, all of this shit. I ended up being right about everything. Now look at the show; it's in the gutter. Everybody should have fucking listened to me. Right, that's not being arrogant. Right, bottom line is Doctor Who has to be a certain standard, and it hasn't been that standard for fucking years. But yet, you all wanted me to do what everybody else want. I'm not talking about you in the chat, by the way. I'm just saying broader. Everybody wanted me to sell out like everybody else or lower my standards. Get on board. It's grand now. It mightn't be the same, but it's still the Doctor that we love and know. All of this shite. No. No. Never lower your standard. And that's what Chris Chibnall did. And that's what RTD did. They lowered the standards. Right? And I'm not lowering mine. And that might come across as arrogant or self-entitled, whatever you want to call it, right? But I expect Doctor Who to be a certain standard, and it hasn't been for a long, long time. So, you can all get goofy about the member berries. You can get all goofy about all the little things that hark back to certain fucking episodes and all of that. But when you look at it all and you lay it all out, there's not much substance. And then on top of that, then it's being strangled by all of the fucking propaganda and ideology of RTDs. Right? And the fact that there are people out there saying that Jodie Whittaker's era is better than RTD2 tells you everything that you need to know about how bad this era was. RTD2 has been an absolute shambles, right? Diabolical. And, some fans out there will remain blind. Some fans will follow blindly and continue to follow blindly whatever direction the show takes. But for us, real Doctor Who fans, the show needs to go back to its heart, its core. It needs to go back to basics. It needs to recapture the magic. The Doctor is not supposed to be apologetic and submissive like the second Tennant performance was. Agreed. David Tennant was groundbreaking. Then the ground broke under them when DT returned. DT returned and admitting defeat because of the Jodie era being a failure. Well, we did actually say that. And at the time, we gave RTD the benefit of the doubt. We thought, you know what, it's kind of smart that he is bringing David Tennant back because he'll bring in the audience. But then, within a matter of weeks, David Tennant ruined any chance that this was going to be successful when he started coming out with his bullshit. Right. The sex of a writer shouldn't matter. Whether it's good writing or not is surely the key question. Agreed. And that's what the point I actually made to her, and that's why she blocked me. Because I said, why does it matter who's writing for Big Finish? If you enjoy the stories, surely that's all that matters. Like, of course, you got the usual from Beth Time Ladies. Oh, I'm being picked on and being bullied. I'm going offline for a couple of weeks for attention. No, the third is own bully you. Bully her? Didn't bully her. I told her out straight that I think she's fucking stupid. Like, right? Asking stupid questions like that. Who cares who writes for Big Finish? If Big Finish was successful and doing well before you opened your mouth, then what was the issue? Oh, that's right. You were just a feminist and you just wanted your way. And you got your way, and look what's happened. Now Big Finish can't even fucking write anything decent. Peter says, never lower your standards. I never lowered my standards, and I wasn't going to. She was in another piece of work, by the way. All these people will never let go. They even brought back Ben Cook, for God's sake. Yeah, I know. Ben Cook and Crystal D, all the old crew back. The crew that told you that there was no debate over Jodie Whittaker's doctor. The crew that silenced you when you spoke up against the fact that a female was cast as the doctor. And my position still stands, right? Jodie Whittaker has actually strengthened my position, right? No woman should ever play the doctor again. End of fucking story. I'm done now. I don't want any of this bullshit. Oh, doctor has to be... No. The doctor is a male role, and that's the end of it. And if you have an issue with that, then you're in the wrong fandom and you're supporting the wrong show, right? Goes back to its core. That means casting male leads only, right? The companion is female. If people have an issue with that, and the companion can be male as well, you can have a female and a male companion, but the bottom line is the doctor should always be a bloke, right? And that should never change. End of story, right? All of this change needs to stop, right? It was supposed to be for the benefit of the show, but it hasn't turned out like that, right? So if it hasn't turned out like that, why continue to do the same shit over and over again, right? All of these casting decisions have not been made for the right reasons, right? They haven't been made because they were the best people for the job, right? One was cast because they were female. Ncuti Gatwa was cast because RTD fancied him, and he just happened to be a black man, right? That's why he was cast, right? And I don't care about his CV and all of this and people saying, well, this, that, and the other, right? The bottom line is, right, when you look at him in the role of the doctor, the people that said that he wasn't right for the role, even though I said I'd give him a chance, and I did give him a chance, right? But if it became very apparent, very quick, and very clear that Ncuti Gatwa was way over his head, number one, and number two, didn't have the gravitas to carry the show, even with bad scripts like Peter Capaldi did. And that was Jodie Whittaker's downfall as well. Any bad scripts that she got made her look worse. Good night, Daniel. Yeah, Robert is leaving as well. Good night as well. Have a good one. Or you can fix the show by having the doctor come back with Peter Capaldi as the 12th Doctor. You can explain that all the events that happened is that his doctor refused to regenerate, created it. You could do that, or you could even go an easier solution. It was the Dream Lord, right? I know it's a bit of a cop-out, and you know, some fans would probably have an issue with it, but the Dream Lord could actually explain all of this away, you know. I just decided to come on. Well, I'm on 34 minutes. I'll be heading off now shortly because Ted goes out for his last walk now, and I have to give him. He's on his meds now, so I have to be on time with that. So I'll be leaving soon anyway. I'm not on all night, but I just you know, it was either sit here and watch something on YouTube or come on and actually stream on YouTube. So I decided I'd come on, and I wanted to talk about this movie bollocks as well. So why not? So yeah, that's why I'm on. Anyway, I found out it's 20 hours or something a month. So that it's still saying 20 hours, but then when I look at the thing, it's only saying 5 hours, like Daniel said. So I don't know what the fuck is going on. But as I said, if I run out of streaming hours on this, I'll just, if I have to start live streaming on my phone like the old days, I will. I know it's not ideal, but you know, I don't want to stay off YouTube now anymore. You know, I actually miss it. I do miss it when I'm away, but sometimes you just need a break. Good novels would be appreciated, says Peter. If anybody there's any fans, any novels there that you are reading or books that you think Peter might be interested in, give him a shout there in the chat. Peter says I'm better live. President Lemon, my answer is it'll take any doctor who is that good. I wouldn't take Tennant back though. That's just a personal thing. I wouldn't have Tennant back anywhere near Doctor Who again. My answer is I'll take any doctor who is good. I wouldn't mind, as I said, Christopher Eccleston and Billy Piper for a movie. Or if they couldn't do that and convince Chris to do it, then Peter Capaldi and Pearl Mackie for me. Because Pearl Mackie only got one season, and I did like Bill Potts. I know she wasn't everybody's cup of tea, and I know Moffat had her explaining that she was a lesbian every 2 seconds, but I don't think that would happen in a feature film. And the chemistry that she had with Peter Capaldi and the dynamic between Peter Capaldi's doctor and Pearl Mackie was the closest that we have gotten to the classic era. So I wouldn't mind those two. They're my choices, but I did also suggest that, you know, if they were really clever, you know, they could do some of these Big Finish audios into feature films and recast different actors and actresses to play the doctors, like, you know, because this whole movie thing is interesting. And the only reason why I bring it up and I'm talking about is because I'm actually thinking while we're talking here, but I'm actually thinking that this would be a viable way of BBC moving forward with Doctor Who, considering that they're cash strapped and they mightn't get another distributor if Disney is in fact gone. And the fact that Jane Tranter said that Doctor Who will continue with or without Disney Plus confirms to me that there is actually something in those rumors. So would BBC be thinking maybe 2 movies a year, an hour and a half each? BBC are very good at doing period drama movies. Are they thinking that kind of way for Doctor Who? And if so, would they recast, you know, for these movies? Now, people did mention Paul McGann as well, President Lemon. Daniel did mention Paul McGann. And I think, you know, again, if there was someone you wanted to bring back for a movie, I think Paul McGann would be perfect, actually. You know, his first movie, yeah, it was slated and stuff like that. But I do believe he's redeemed himself when Moffat brought him back. And again, it wasn't his fault with the movie. You know, he's a paid actor to do the job. I think we all agree he was a great doctor. So I said this earlier, there does seem to be this kind of weird thing with BBC and Paul McGann in relation to Doctor Who, but they've hired him for other work on BBC. Do you know what I mean? So Extremists had good teams. I did. Do you know what? Those episodes, those 3 episodes, get a lot of stick. But I did like those episodes. I thought it was some of Peter Capaldi's best work, to be quite honest with you. But I think the letdown, the 3-parter, I think it was wasn't it the resolution some fans didn't like, you know. Why not something like Love, Death and Robots, but with Doctor Who? That's what I mean. We were talking about this. They kind of have to think outside the box, don't they, to try and resurrect this now. They have to do something different, and whether they like it or not, they're gonna have to do something extreme. They have to take a risk. Like, there is no more time to be playing it safe now. You've got to do something, right? Because it's clear that BBC wanted to continue, right? That is clear. That's why it baffles me that they keep making the wrong decisions. I wish I was in the room with all of these people and I say, look, you just want to fix Doctor Who. It's as simple as this. Now, you could take me advice on board, but I'm going to tell you why that the show's a complete shit show at the moment and what you need to do to resurrect it, right? And you can listen to me, or you can listen to me, take the advice on board, do something with it, or you can ignore me and continue to go down the stupid route that you've been going down this whole time. And it's brought you nothing but misery. Well, it's brought the fandom nothing but misery, and the show isn't successful. So if you want to change that around, you want the show to be successful and the fandom to be happy again, to be buying your merch, filling the coffers, well, then you have to start listening to the people that have been telling you where you've been going wrong this whole time. It's not as if fans are going to start making demands. At the end of the day, you guys still make the show. But I don't think there is anything wrong with listening to fans' objections and fans' criticisms and taking it on board like grown-ass adults and saying, okay, maybe they do have a point. Maybe we have been doing it wrong. Maybe we do need to listen to these people. Peter Capaldi in a classic serious movie. Next Doctor is going to be Trans RTD, probably. Well, if you watch Dan's stream, of course, it was spoken about on here as well in relation to RTD. The rumor is that RTD is gone; he's out, and the reason for that is what we even spoke about on the channel here. I compared to what was going on behind the scenes for Ncuti Gatwa's era. I compared it to Chaos in Cardiff, and I said we could possibly have a second Chaos in Cardiff on our hands. And apparently he was butting heads with the actors and actresses. He was butting heads with the higher ups, BBC and at Disney. Because look, I've always said this, and I'll say it again. Disney gave RTD, Bad Wolf Studios, 100 million to give them Doctor Who, right? Disney did not receive Doctor Who, right? And this is maybe one of the reasons why, for the first time, we got Jay and Tranter, who's been working on Doctor Who, saying, yeah, Doctor Who will continue with or without Disney, right? So it indicates to me that the rumors and all of the news reports, media reports that have been going around that Disney is out, I think there's some validation in those rumors. And if RTD is gone, as I said, and I said it the other day, just because RTD is gone doesn't mean that we celebrate, though, because, if BBC continue to make the same mistakes, then it doesn't matter that RTD is gone. If the next idiot that they bring in is cut from the same cloth as RTD, let's just say, well, then the show is already dead before it's even started. And for me, they can't have anybody that's worked on New Who, especially, working on the show moving forward. They need new blood. They need proper science fiction writers. And as I said earlier on, if they're science fiction writers, right, and they've never worked on Doctor Who, they know of Doctor Who, right? They know of Doctor Who. They know what it's all about. There's no way you could tell me that some nerdy writer, science fiction writer, can't come in and write a decent episode of Doctor Who, even if he's never watched the show. Right? Basic science fiction. These writers are all, seriously, some of these writers don't even watch the show and they know everything about the show. I don't want fans writing for Doctor Who anymore. Right? They've destroyed Big Finish. You just have to look at Big Finish now. They've got fans writing for that now. Right? And it's not doing well. The audios are not doing well. Right? And look at the main show. RTD, a fan. Chris Chibnall, a fan. Well, Chris Chibnall, definitely a fan. As I said in the other video the other day, we've never seen RTD, a photograph of RTD at a convention, or showing off any Doctor Who merch as a fan before he was even the writer that he was. Right? He claimed he was a fan. Don't even know if he ever was a fan. Because anybody that was a fan wouldn't have bastardized it like he did for his second era. Right? When RTD did it the first time, I genuinely believed he came in, RTD1, he came in because he had passion for Doctor Who. This time he came in, he had an agenda. And once you have an agenda, and you move away from coming in because you love the show, but then you're always going to fail. And he failed big time. Spectacularly, 100 million failure, right? 100 million failure, right? And that includes the spin-off. Right, and you can be goddamn sure that the spin-off is an absolute write-off as well. Maybe that's why it was pushed. As I mentioned, you know, Disney do their accounts at the end of the year, don't they, at the start of the new fiscal year. So they'll drop the spin-off, the War Between the Land and the Sea next year, and they'll take the loss on it. But they'll make it up then if they, because it'll be a new year. They'll make it up if they actually make some decent fucking movies next year, and some other decent fucking shows. Then they'll make some money back. But they've lost huge on Doctor Who. 100 million flushed down the toilet for that shite. And again, like clockwork, you have your fans praising it all the way through, but then as soon as it's over, and then there's no word on Doctor Who, and it looks like it's on, as I said, an unofficial hiatus, right? Because they haven't made it official, but it's a hiatus, right? Talks of 2027 and all, like it's a hiatus, right? And now all of a sudden, some of these fans that were kissing RTD's ass are now coming out and explaining where RTD went wrong. But yeah, you didn't have the balls to say it to him when he's had the opportunity, right? See, that's the difference between me as a fan and them as a fan. Because I would have actually said it to RT. If I was in the privileged position, right, to go and see that 60th anniversary special, right, and if I didn't like it, I would have went up to him and told him that he has to, this is it. You need to do better, mate. And I wouldn't care if I upset him. But I would have told him there and then, you need to do better than this. Because this ain't cutting it. But no, these people were like, yes, sir. Yes, sir. We love you, RTD. Great. We love you so much. And then what does he do? He bribes them by putting them in the show. Right? These little sellouts who were in a position of privilege and opportunity to tell RTD the things that he was doing wrong, and they chose not to. They chose to sell out. That's why I call them sellouts, because they are. Right? If I was in that position, it'd be a different story. I'm not going to speak for anybody else, because you all know I'm straightforward anyway. So I would say it to him, and I'd have no problems of saying it to him. That's what I mean. We need an overhaul president, and that's it's just the only way you can move forward. It's like Eric Cartman said, hippies don't have money. Yeah, but they didn't say it because they wanted to keep being invited back. Yeah, it doesn't matter. You should never listen. If you're willing to sell your soul, if you're willing to go back on your convictions, because you might get an opportunity to meet the showrunner or to be part of the show by getting a little cameo or whatever, right? And there's plenty of them in that, right? While he's actually mocking the fans. That's the thing, using those fans to mock and bash other fans who have had an issue with the show. That's what he did, and they participated in that. So when they come out with their bullshit about Doctor Who, I ignore those people. They're not even worth listening to. You sold out. And for what? And for what? Look at the end result now. Fandom's in tatters. Right? Big Finish in tatters. Doctor Who magazine, tatters. Right? The show, tatters. Right? Spin-offs in tatters before they've even begun. What did I say the day that RTD was announced? When we knew he was back? Remember? What did I say? If the show wasn't on solid foundations, there was no point in doing spin-offs because it wouldn't work. And that's exactly what we're saying. Right? The show always had to be on solid foundations before you started doing any spin-offs anyway. Right? And the war between the land and the sea was too soon. Right? The war between the land and the sea was too soon. We needed at least 2 or 3 seasons of solid Doctor Who before you even start thinking about spin-offs. But no. Yeah, that's the one thing I will give out about Disney about. You followed the Disney model, which was the wrong thing to do. And I said if you followed that model, you would fail. And you have failed. Spectacularly. The ratings are so bad. And don't tell me TV habits have changed and all this other bullshit, because that doesn't wash anymore. Because when BBC put a decent show or a decent program on their Poxy channel, right, it gets millions of views, right? The reason why Doctor Who doesn't get the millions of views that it used to get isn't because TV habits have changed. It's because the writing is poor and it's shit, right? And the character development is awful. And the stories go nowhere. And there is some sort of a plot. It's missing within all of the fucking ideology and propaganda that the showrunner at the time wants to push. I honestly start to think we were too harsh on class. Listen, I've defended class. I like class. I haven't been ashamed to say it either. I did find Peter Capaldi's cameo though a little bit. It did look a little bit out of place for what they wanted to do with that show, but I did love his cameo in it. And some of those episodes were actually quite creepy. And I always say it though, that cliffhanger at the end of class was class. And I'm telling you, I wanted that second season. I wanted to see what fucking happened. They ruined that because they did an audio, but they never addressed it in the audios apparently, right? So I wanted that second season. I thought that show had huge potential. It was just some people found it too woke. I wouldn't even say it was woke. I just don't think that some of the cast that they cast were they did enough to make them likable. I think that's where they failed, right? But that class, look, I've said it on this channel plenty of times. I know people absolutely hate class, but I'll still listen, like Torchwood. I'll still watch Torchwood, right? I was watching Torchwood only a couple of weeks ago, right? I was going to watch Class actually last week, but I decided to watch the few episodes of that Alien Earth. And I can tell you I won't be watching any more episodes of Alien Earth. I did say that, I did say by looking at the trailer, I had some hope, but I wasn't going to be fooled by the trailer. We'll just see how good or bad it actually is, and by God, it's fucking awful. Yeah. Well done. You are now in a barely visible cameo in a horrible episode. I hope it was worth your integrity. Exactly. That's what I can't get me head around. I would never do that. How far can Bad Wolf stretch its hand down the girdler to revive Doctor Who? Bad Wolf, I don't think will be having anything to do with future Doctor Who, Peter. If I'm being honest, if rumours are to be believed, right? If RTD is out, then that means Bad Wolf is out, right? More than likely, Bad Wolf is out, unless Bad Wolf sticks around, because remember, him and Jane and others are involved in Bad Wolf Studios. So maybe he steps aside and maybe Jane takes over. But again, that's not a risk. That's still doing the same stupid fucking thing. Do you know what I mean? Bad Wolf have to be out of this situation altogether. Doctor Who needs to go back. Listen, if BBC can't get a distributor, right, okay, it's because of RTD, right? So BBC have to go it alone. I think I'll ask this question because I know what my answer is, right? If BBC come out and say that they have to do a lower budget, or that we're not going to have as many episodes because they just don't have the money or the budget to do it right now, would you accept less episodes, lower quality fucking CGI and all that bollocks for better stories? I think I know what fucking fans would want, right? They don't give a shit about the CGI. See, that's what they all give a shit about, how beautiful it looks. We never gave a shit about that, right? For us, it's the writing. That's what made Doctor Who stand out, the writing, right? That's what spoke, was the writing. And it doesn't even have that. So if it doesn't have that, then it doesn't have anything, right? You can glitz and glam it up all you fucking want. If you don't have what makes Doctor Who, which was the storytelling, right, then you've got fuck all. Lower budget with higher creativity makes a much better show than a higher budget and no imagination. That's the issue. There's too much money in the industry now that people are taking shortcuts with creativity, right? And they're using all of the technology that they have to be lazy, right? Imagine if it was taken away. Imagine if a studio turned around and says, listen, you know, we want, you know, proper storytelling. We don't want this movie to be about CGI and you know, I'd even go back to practical effects. Practical effects were always the best anyway, right? I don't like CGI. It's unbelievable. Even though CGI is so much better now, right? I say that CGI is so much better now, but look at the companies that even Marvel and DC have been using, and look what they've done with some of the CGI. It's been awful, right? They're big budget fucking Hollywood movies, right? But the technology has improved, but they're even lazy using that now, right? That they make fucking mistakes, glaring mistakes that people can see when they're watching their big budget fucking movie, and then they're seeing fucking glaring CGI mistakes or glitches and stuff. So even the quality check in their work is not even there anymore, right? It's just, right, let's do this, let's package it all up and fucking release it. Who gives a shit, basically? That's what it looks like to me. No budget. That's why Classic Who is the pinnacle. They had hardly any fucking budget, and the writing had to do the talking, and by God, sure it fucking did, right? Because we wouldn't be sitting here today in 2025 talking about Doctor Who if it wasn't for the classic era. And the fact that era gets so much fucking stick, right? And people laugh at it, right? And belittle it in some parts of the fandom is an absolute disgrace, right? Because without it, you wouldn't have your precious New Who, right? You wouldn't have your characters that you all fucking get excited about if it wasn't for Classic Who. Classic Who, right? These fans never respect it, right? And it looks like RTD didn't respect it either when he did that horrible looking Omega and that Zutec, right? Just showed you how much he fucking respected Classic fucking Who. He took the fucking piss out of it. That's what he did. Took the piss out of it. And took the piss out of you guys as well. And I don't know about you, right? But I got really annoyed and upset over what he did to Zutec, right? People have been asking me for years. I keep bringing this up on these streams. They're probably tired of fucking hearing about it now, right? But people have always asked me what classic villain would like to see return, and Zutec was always obviously top of my list. Omega was mentioned by people that have been on my streams and have mentioned Omega as well. Super John in particular is a huge fan of Omega, and I know for a fact that he wanted Omega. But to go and do that, to go and give us that CGI jumbled fucking absolute disgrace of a mess, and to insult fans and to insult that character at the same time, you got to have a brass neck. And he clearly fucking does, and he clearly doesn't care. And then he wonders why fans don't care. And then you add all these crap on top of that, and the fact that he's lost his writing ability. And I'm sorry, he has. He might be able to still write a great gay, queer show, right? Whatever, right? When it comes to writing for Doctor Who, he doesn't have it anymore. He's lost it. Just like Stephen Moffat when he came back for RTD. Stephen Moffat doesn't have it anymore. The lads left for a reason. RTD left because he said he was burnt out. It was the right time to go, and he was right. And you know that old saying, you should never return to past glories. He should never have returned. And then Stephen Moffat was brought in to write a couple of episodes, and to be quite honest with you, he lost his touch as well, it looks like. Yes, his writing was slightly better than RTD's, but he'd lost his touch with Doctor Who as well. Like, they'd be fantastic doing different stuff, just not with Doctor Who. They're done with Doctor Who. Stephen Moffat was also born when he left. He actually stayed 2 seasons too long. Actually, he should have left after Matt Smith's reign ended. And Peter Capaldi should have had a new showrunner. Right? That's what ideally should have happened for Peter Capaldi. Moffat stuck around too long. But when he left us with, he was decent enough when he left, right? Wasn't it an absolute fucking disaster? And then, of course, we got the fucking regeneration, and then that was the end of that. And Doctor Who's been downhill. It was already gone downhill anyway, but not as quick as we seen it during these 2 eras. So Doctor Who's been on the decline, I would argue, since the Stephen Moffat era. Just at the end of the Matt Smith era is when it started to all go pear-shaped for Moffat, in my opinion. And that's when he should have left. You mean Clifford the Big Red Dog, says President Lemon, and Zutec was ruined as a huge CGI dog. I know. Boom is overrated as far. Yeah, it's not good. Not good. But you see, the reason why it's overrated is because RTD's writing was so bad. You know, and people did get excited, including myself, that Stephen Moffat was writing an episode, because I thought, look, yeah, RTD's era is bad, but Moffat can't be any worse than him. Unfortunately, though, you know, look, here's the thing, though, in Moffat's defense again, right? Apparently, the story boom that we got wasn't the original story that he wanted to tell, and it was the same with his Christmas special. He wanted that Christmas special apparently was fleshed out a lot more, and the version he wanted to do was much better than the version that we got. But again, whoever the powers were be, they interfered, and we didn't get what Moffat actually wanted to give us. So I don't know, maybe I am being a little bit too harsh on Moffat. Maybe if he did give us the stories that he wanted to give us, we'd be talking differently about the Moffat episodes. But for me, they were a letdown, the versions that we did get. But the thing about it is, we do know that he wanted to actually do a lot more with the episodes that he got to actually do. So I will defend him on that part. But what he did deliver, I've got to be honest with you, was absolutely awful. And Boom for me as well. I didn't get the hype around Boom. I still don't get the hype around Boom. And it's just such a shame because, you know, I think for a lot of people, when it went wrong with RTD and they seen that Stephen Moffat was coming back, there was a little bit of hope there that maybe Stephen Moffat could upstage RTD and maybe to be called Stephen Moffat to take over. But of course, we got what we got, and that put that to bed. No, I don't. I don't think. I do agree with you on Moffat, but I do think that had a lot to do with Ncuti Gatwa as well. To be quite honest with you, President Lemon, I just think it was. The casting was completely wrong from the start, and he wasn't the original Doctor that was picked anyway. There was already an actor picked for the role, but for some weird reason, you know, Ncuti Gatwa still got to do. They'd already made up their mind who they wanted, already given the role, but then Ncuti Gatwa come in anyway because still part, and all of a sudden then it was changed. I'm not going into any more detail than that till I'm allowed to tell you the rest. But all I'll just say is this, is that Ncuti Gatwa was not the Doctor that we were supposed to be getting. And that's a fact, right? That's a fact, right? He wasn't the Doctor we were supposed to be getting. There was someone else cast, but of course, RTD got the final say, and he decided to change that. And I'll just say this, by the way, right? I can't tell you who the actor is, right? But I will tell you this. It was an actor with a terrific CV, and it was an actor that would have absolutely blew it out of the water. He would have been absolutely the perfect casting. He would have been the absolute perfect casting, and it pisses me off that I know who it is, and it pisses me off that I can't say anything right now, but it pisses me off that the fact that this man changed his fucking mind and decided to cast Ncuti Gatwa. This is why kind of Lee says when he talks about the casting of the Doctor, you know, it was RTD's bit of eye candy. The only reason why Ncuti Gatwa was selected is because, in my opinion, and this is my opinion, by being told what I was told, right, the bottom line is this, is that I think RTD had a bit of a fancy to Mr. Gatwa. And that's the only reason why he was cast. Now, if you're casting bait, now, that's what I was told, right? And again, I will just add the caveat, rumor and speculation. I'll take it with a pinch of salt. You don't have to believe me, but you know me track record, okay? So, like, I'll just leave it there. But if that's the reason why you cast someone, right, well, then you're obviously doing it for the wrong reason, and you're not doing it for the betterment of the role. I suppose, though, when I look back at it now, and I think about it now, and I think about that actor that was going to be playing it, I'll just say they dodged the bullet. They dodged the bullet. So probably did their career a favour, to be quite honest with you. And to be quite honest, caliber of this actor wouldn't have deserved RTD2. He wouldn't have deserved that as an actor. He deserves much better because he's a terrific actor. So, you know, absolutely fucking gutted I am. Gutted. You know, you secure the actor says, yeah, you know, it's all done. We're getting ready to, and then you're told, oh, sorry, we changed our minds. Yeah. Look, we know they've done it in the past, right? And RTD in particular has done it in the past. This is nothing new, by the way. So anybody doubts what I'm saying, look, RTD has a past. We do know that Christopher Eccleston actually wasn't his first choice. So, you know, and he already had another actor cast as well, and there was minds changed then, right? But the difference is Christopher Eccleston was great and was the right choice in the end. So, you know, they made the right choice there. But in this case, RTD made the wrong choice in casting Ncuti, right? I'm not saying maybe in 10 or 20 years' time, Ncuti Gatwa wouldn't have been able to play the Doctor. With a bit more experience under his belt and a few more years of acting under his belt, he would have learned more about, you know, how to carry the character and stuff like that. He would have had more understanding. Again, you know, I get why they want to cast kind of younger actors to play the Doctor, but, you know, I think you need that experience when you're playing a Time Lord. That's the age that the Doctor's supposed to be. You know, Matt Smith got away with it because Matt Smith had it. You just looked into Matt Smith's eyes, right? You believed that he was a Time Lord that was hundreds of years old, right? His facial expressions, little things that he did, right, convinced you. He might have had a young face, but you knew he was old inside. You knew he was ancient, right? You didn't feel that with Ncuti when Ncuti was playing the role, right? Like, I mean, the guy wanted the fucking party, for God's sake. Goes to fucking nightclubs and shit. That's not the Doctor. I'm sorry, but I know you want to jazz up the Doctor a little bit and try make him relevant. But you see, the thing about it is you're missing the whole point. The Doctor will always be relevant. I mean, the show wouldn't be around for over 60 fucking years if it wasn't relevant, right? So you were obviously doing something fucking right until you start doing something fucking wrong. Look, one day it's not up to me to I can't just come out. I have to be given permission to, and I can't right now because let's put it this way: there could be still a possibility of this actor now that Ncuti is gone, right? There could be a chance that this actor is reconsidered for the role if Doctor Who's moving forward. So I don't want to say anything. And of course, I'd get myself into trouble because, you know, you can't just come out and just name names. You know what I mean? Yeah, no, shut your mouth. I know, I suppose the more I keep going on about it, the more I'm making you all more like, no, what, who is it? Sorry. I don't mean to be doing that. It's just, I'm pissed, lads. I'm pissed. And yous would be pissed as well. But you're right. I'm going to shut up now about that. But look, in the meantime, it's going to be fan stuff now. And lots of fans with the advent of AI now are creating some magic. We've got Garbage, who does be in the chat, and he's he's created some AI songs, a bit like myself, create some AI songs and stuff like that. So go and check out Garbage's channel. Of course, Dan from Type 40 is doing his thing and knocking it out of the park. You can go and check him out as well. President Lemon, it's grand. I'm not saying anymore now. But look, there's still plenty of things going on in the fandom, you know, from fans and people that we know that are trying to create some stuff for us to get to sink our teeth into, right? And you know, some of it will be hit and some of it will be missed. That's the glorious thing about the fandom, right? But it's not as if we're going to be starved of creativity, because the best thing about show when it's on official or unofficial hiatus is the fandom then starts getting creative, and you'll have some fans out there that'll start creating their own stories. And with the advent of AI now, they can actually create full scenes and stuff like that. Of course, most of these people are paying for the AI apps, which is the right thing to do if you want to do that and make a pop. Obviously, if I was to do it, I'd be using all the free AI, but it's hardly free anymore now. And that's why I don't do the music songs. I don't do songs anymore, because the apps that I was using have all turned to paid now, premium. So I can't even create any more songs. But there'll be plenty of fans out there that will be creating loads of content. And I do know that there are people out there that are getting the old telesnaps and stuff like that, and they're using AI to bring scenes alive and to do stuff like that, to bring the anime, because obviously fans are not liking the animation. So, and look, as I said, I'm kind of a purist myself. I've always said, you know, I'm not really a huge fan of the animations myself. Now, I will watch them, obviously, the classic. I never watch them in color. When I do watch them, I'll watch them in black and white, because that's when they were out, they were in black and white, and I'll watch them in black and white, because for me, you have to watch them in black and white. But I always find the animation just takes me out of it, you know. So I'm a bit of a pure, but this AI seems to, you know, because the AI can do the facial expressions and all now better than animation can, or the animation that Doctor Who is fucking using anyway, or BBC are using. I think it's a company in India now that does the animation. But AI seems to be the game changer, you know. But we've already seen with the Doctor Who fandom and with BBC, you know, some fan out there, he used telesnaps or something, and he reconstructed a scene or something with AI. And then, of course, Mr. TARDIS Reviews and others who clearly don't like AI had a problem with it, became a big issue, and BBC got involved and they took down his work because they claimed that he what's the word? He plagiarized it or whatever it was. But he used AI to bring it to life. So he did something different to it. This is just BBC abusing the copyright laws to benefit them, which I don't think they should be doing, especially in this climate, considering that fan appreciation for Doctor Who is at an all-time low. Why would you want to suppress fans who actually want to bring a bit of joy to the fandom when you haven't managed to do it for the last few years? Look, this is where I am with AI. If AI is used as part of the creative process, but isn't the whole of the creative process, and it isn't abused, then I think AI can be a good thing. You're always going to do, you always will have people out there that will abuse. And this is why I always say that things like AI, especially AI, they do need to have some sort of regulation behind it, right? Because you can't let people, look, bottom line is people still work, people still have livelihoods. And I do get it. The industry as a whole is in a state, and these creative people have been creating anything decent for years. But there are still genuine people out there that do create, and AI could hurt them. Do you know what I mean? And they would be the creators, the writers, and the artists that I would feel sorry for, right? But they've only got themselves to blame. The other side that are not creative and talented enough to do the job, and AI will show them up. So BBC need to be a bit more lenient on the whole copyright nonsense, because to be quite honest with you, if you want your show to survive or you want people to keep continuing to talk about Doctor Who, well then let fans do their thing. Because right now, you can't do it. And as I said, you haven't entertained the fandom in years, so let the fans entertain themselves and let them do their little pet projects. You know, you might be able to even steal one or two ideas like you used to do back in the day. Oh, did I say that out loud? Sorry. But you know what I mean? These aren't even using these our heads. You could get an idea based off something that a fan has done and then start this whole process again, and away we go. Doctor Who back to its glory days, back to where it belongs. In that top 3 of the ratings charts. That's where we want to see. It doesn't have to be number 1 every week, but in that top 3 where it fucking belongs, right? Punching above its weight like it used to in the classic era, right? That's what made Doctor Who an underdog, right? And that's the way Doctor Who should always be. And this is the perfect now position to be in, because it is an underdog right now. Fans have lost all complete faith in it. This is our chance now to do something fucking amazing with it, right? And actually, you know, go for broke. It's not even a hard fix. It's not. It fucking isn't. All you have to do is just do right by the fans. Do right by the show and respect it. Respect the fans. Give us the stories that we fucking want. And you're halfway there, right? Because it's going to take you a couple of years to win fans back. That's obvious, right? But you'll win some fans back straight away. Do the right things, though. I'm 100% anti-AI, down with them clangers. So President Lemon's not a fan of AI. I understand that. Look, again, I do understand your point of view as well. I'm not going to argue over people's point of view, because you do have your reasons, and are probably very valid reasons. I just think, you know, if you use it the right way and you use it to aid the creative process, and it isn't the whole creative process, I think AI can work. But again, you know, I say this, I remember a few years back, maybe a decade or two ago, when you were talking about the possibility of AI, even as far back as the 90s. And we always joked that if we went down that route, we were asking for trouble, because I don't think anybody has ever seen iRobot or Terminator 2, you know, Skynet. We you know what I mean? Yeah, I 100% think AI should be illegal. You know, look, I will say this in relation to it. There will come a point where there will be a debate on AI, because like everything, it will be abused. And it is being abused right now. But when Hollywood starts using it, and then they start using the likeness of actors to bring them back to life, I think you're going to have an issue, right? Because actors and actresses now will have to read the small print on their contracts now, or get their lawyers to read the small print. Because if I'm right in saying some people that are connected to the Star Wars franchise, when they died, they signed something to say that their likeness could be used after death, right? Now, of course, obviously, those people and those estates wouldn't have an issue. But it's when Hollywood abuses it and doesn't ask for permission and starts being cavalier about it, is when you're going to have an issue with it. Look, it's going to look. You can already see it. There's videos being created. Right, I saw one the other day, fucking really scary, like, of how far AI has come. I don't know if you've seen them, but it's the video with the baby sitting outside and the bear comes along and the cat saves the baby from the fucking bear, like. And at first, because I didn't read the person who had wrote it, I didn't realize at first what I was watching was AI, because I commented underneath it and it says, what kind of fucking idiot of a mother leaves their child outside where there's fucking bears, like. And then when I scrolled up, I realized, oh fuck, it's actually AI. So it is already gone too far. Look, something will only be done with it when either, as I said, the movie industry abuses it, or if the politicians, if people start, like they've been doing with Keir Starmer right now, doing the AI videos of him, right, in Davros's chair and stuff like that, and Daleks and all of this, right? If that continues and politicians, are the target with these AI videos, well, you'd be guaranteed that there'll be a clampdown, because those pricks don't like anything said about them, right? Even if someone does an AI, they won't tolerate that nonsense. So there will be a clampdown. There will be a clampdown, that's for sure. Anyway, look, it's an hour and 26, so I've got to bring him out and then give him his meds. So I'm going to leave it there. But I will be back soon, maybe later on today or the next day. It's after 12. Well, it's 1 o'clock now, so it is a kind of noon morning, 1 o'clock in the morning. So it might be later on this evening. If not, it'll be the next day, but we'll see. I just wanted to do an hour nighttime stream for you anyway, because as I said, I would have been just sitting here doing nothing, and I felt like, after today's stream went well, I said, feck it, I'll come on and I'll do another one. Why not? Night, yeah, big Irish git. No problem, and I still want me fucking lemonade. I haven't forgotten. Peter Davis says good night as well. We've had 11 people, between 11 and 17 people tuning in all night. So I just want to thank you all for popping in, even if it was for a brief moment. Thank you. Don't forget to like and share. Leave a comment, helps with the algorithm, and it's this hype nonsense now on YouTube. I don't know what it does, but it sounds good. So if you want to hype me video or me live stream, please do that as well. As they say, as Tesco says, every little fucking helps. So especially with YouTube today, everything helps. So if you could do all of that and maybe share the stream if you can, if you don't mind, that would be absolutely fantastic. And I will talk to you again for the next one. And I'm just going to leave you abruptly because we've no intros and outros now, unfortunately, folks. So that's it. So I'll say good night. Have a good sleep, and I'll hopefully talk to you all later on this evening. If not, it'll be the next day. I don't even know what day it is today. Why do I keep saying just hold on? It's Thursday now. So if I'm not back Thursday evening, I'll be back on Friday. But more than likely I will be back later on, because I've got the bug for it again now. So I'll probably be back on again later on. So look out for that Thursday. Yeah, it'll be Thursday. Yeah, it's Thursday today. So it'll be Thursday evening if I come on. Look out for that. I'll try schedule it an hour beforehand. I know I didn't schedule this and it was just preempt, but I'll schedule the one tomorrow if I am streaming tomorrow. So then you will have a little bit of notice of when I'm going. And again, it'll just be a random Doctor Who conversation. So I'm going to have a bit of a think of what I want to talk about tomorrow or later on. So yeah, they're the type of streams that I used to love doing. You know, I'd come on back in the early days and just do random Doctor Who topic and just talk about that, and then that way then you could segue into different Doctor Who topics without being constricted. So I will see you then. Ted is all right, by the way, guys, and thank you all for your concern. It means that I know it means the world to me. I mean, Ted doesn't understand because he's the dog, but trust me, it means the world to us. But he's on the mend. Nobody has to worry. Still a good few more years left in this little fucker. Yeah, he's going to be around for a long time. It's just he's had like me, like Cheryl, we've just had a bad 2025. It's just been really fucking awful. But look, onwards and upwards, as they say. Thank you for watching, and go and check out all of those other brilliant people that are in the YouTube bubble, in our bubble, and go and support them as always. And I'll talk to you tomorrow, guys. Have a good one, good evening, and good night. God bless you all.